Good afternoon. Welcome to Ageless Living Collaborative webinar on where are we today in senior living communities. Communities are reopening. What does that mean for visiting family and friends and designers and installations and all the things that used to look like normal? Today we have with us Alicia Jones from West End Interiors, Laura Busalacci of Brookdale Senior Living, Greg Cini of Kemper House in Central Ohio, and Joe Jasmine, American Healthcare Management Group. Thank you all for joining us today. You know, gone are the iPads and the family members standing outside in the rain and snow, trying to wave to and talk to family members inside, which seemed like was never going to end. You know, we've got shots in arms in a lot of places. We're vaccinated, we're ready to go. But what does that mean? How have things changed? What does that mean with regard to visiting somebody, finally getting on an airplane, having them come see you? Do they have to wait to go back into their community? What is really going on? So we're going to start by asking Greg, okay, shots are in arms. Cities and states are reopening. So you're an operator of an assisted living and memory care community. What are the new protocols that are in place at Kemper House for visitors and for residents alike?
That's a good question, Phoebe. You know, and I just want to put it out there that every state is different. So what I'm going to say, we simply operate in Ohio alone. And so every state is different. So it could be a little bit different. But the good part is the governor just pretty much released all the mandates on us related to visitation. So we're pretty pumped about that. Although we're going to take our time. Right now, we're currently open so that families and friends can visit. They visit anywhere from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m., 7 days a week. And we are designating some spaces for that. So you know, we still have to follow the CDC guidelines. And so we're still having to ask the questions, take the temperatures, check family and friends in, just like our care team. But it's been a huge relief for us when the governor says he just wants to get out of our way. It's been an incredible impact, not only from a COVID perspective, but also just the isolation, especially with somebody suffering from dementia. So being able to get family members back in with their loved ones, as loving and as an environment that we have at Kemper House, nothing replaces having family back in the building. And so we're just excited. In fact, this afternoon, right after this, we have a grand opening of Kemper House Worthington. So
fabulous.
Right as we leave this. So
that's exciting.
It, we're having the community at large in.
That's terrific. Well, we know that the protocols are different from state to state, and some states were wide open than others. Joe, what steps have you taken to reintroduce family visitation into your communities?
We started the process with, obviously, with vaccines and trying to get everybody that we could think of, friends, family, visitors, potential visitors, staff, residents, vaccinated. That went fairly well. Went through the screening process. We continue to do the screening process as far as masks and temperatures and those types of things. And then because we're in multiple states, there are states where we're not required to wear a mask, and there are states we're required to wear a mask. So we kind of dance around all of those. And so we kind of narrowed it down to families are welcome in pretty much across the board. We try to do scheduled visits. We try to give them as much freedom as possible, state by state. In certain states, they still have to do a private visitation within the residence room. Not a lot of open sort of free run of the communities on the inside. So we've kind of shifted those activities to the outside where there's much more freedom and multiple families can be visiting at the same times and doing those types of things. And we've really tried to reintroduce volunteers into the mix because they can help not only with residents, but shepherding visits so we can maximize those visits. We've also included live entertainment that's helpful to, keep the other residents busy while other family members are coming in, so they aren't wandering over there wondering what's going on. And then really kind of starting that sort of wider opening a little bit at a time. We have in a couple communities hosted some family events inside. Father's Day event, which we did a pretty good job of that here in Illinois. We did a big event in South Carolina as well on the inside, but those are limited right now until we get really more comfortable and the states will allow us to do more.
Mhm. So is that type of an indoor event something that is when you know that people have been vaccinated, or if you requiring masks during that?
Yeah, so in those specific events we do indoor, they're RSVP only, and you have to have been vaccinated. If you have not, then you got to come and wear a mask. And those folks, we kind of put it like the kids' table.
Right.
You have to sit kind of over at the kids' table and kind of keep social distance, just to be extra safe,
Sure.
so that we didn't put anyone at risk unduly. And that's sort of been the plan all along. Is like Greg said, we want the families back in. It makes the community so much better.
Right.
We're going to do
right.
everything we can to make that work, but we're still going to be as safe as we can be.
Excellent. Well, Laura, I'm sure you're seeing the same thing. Or is that pretty much a constant then, that if the families are visiting, they're going into the personal space of the residents as opposed to just kind of meandering in the communities?
Yeah, I think it depends on the community, depends on the state. We're following the CDC guidance. So it just depends.
Understandable. At the beginning of the pandemic, which thankfully seems like a really long time ago, we were talking about how caregivers moving between communities, which they frequently do, were unknowingly spreading the virus. Now, most residents in communities are vaccinated by and large. But what about the caregivers? And if someone isn't vaccinated, how do communities deal with that? Greg, do you want to kick that off?
Sure, yeah. I mean, the big thing about that is safety first. This is still a really dangerous disease, and it depends on the community itself. I've heard ranges anywhere from anything below 40% on vaccinations related to caregivers. That community is still in danger of the disease.
Of course.
Once you get above that 40%, and most organizations really are trying to get to that 70, sort of like our country is. We're fortunate that 85% of our care team members are vaccinated, and right now 100% of our residents. And so we feel like we have a safe environment. We're still stingy on letting vendors come into the building, so we're asking that they be vaccinated, and if they're not, then send somebody else. So we're really paying attention to who's coming in and out of the building. It's still a threat, especially if you aren't reaching those vaccination levels of the 70 and 80 percentile. And I know we're a smaller organization, so it was sort of a top-down education for a lot of our caregivers to really spend time with them and talk to them about what vaccination does, what the history of vaccination does. And even though this came to market quickly, which was sort of the scary thing about it, everything is sped up over the last 10, 20, 30 years with technology. So we need to get past that it came to the market quickly. It's because everything we do now is done at light speed. So
Good point.
at the end of the day, go get vaccinated. It's going to protect your loved ones and allow us to continue to open our community. Right now, we could be open 24/7, but we still think it's too risky to do that. So keep pushing towards vaccination for your communities and outside your communities.
Well, your numbers are amazing, and the fact that you have so many people vaccinated is extraordinary, and kudos to you, and I hope everybody will follow suit. In the times that you have to ask people, are you vaccinated? And they say yes, do you ask for proof?
Absolutely. Yeah, we tell them, bring your card. We document that, and then next time they come, we don't have to look at their vaccination card. If they haven't been vaccinated, then we still have the rapid test. So within 15 minutes, if you show up to our building and you haven't been vaccinated, then we give you the rapid test, and within 15 minutes, you can go back and see your loved one. And that also includes if you're traveling from another state, we act regardless, we test you. So right now we're probably being overcautious on it, but you know, it's a dangerous disease, so we think it's worth it.
I think you're spot on. Laura, how is it working for you guys at Brookdale? Are you in that same type of protocol, or are you doing something a little differently?
We have been actively working on vaccinating as many residents and associates as possible. We had 3 rounds of vaccine clinics in the communities. Those have since stopped. So anybody that isn't vaccinated needs to get vaccinated locally where they reside. The vaccination rate ranges from the community being 100% vaccinated to, like Greg was saying, there's some communities where the residents are like 85 to 90%, but the associates are 40, 50%. It's so, because our footprint is all over the United States, it just really, really varies.
By region.
Yeah.
Joe, are you
So-
doing a similar thing?
Yeah, we did a pretty good job. I got to give my teams credit for really stepping up to the plate and creating a party environment around the vaccinations. And so we teamed with CVS on ours and put together photo booths and shots and prizes and awards. And literally our residents were doing Jello shots. Not alcoholic, I wish they weren't, after they got their vaccinations, and it became fun. And so we used the tried and true peer pressure plan.
Sure.
Love
Staff, and they helped one another and encouraged. We have very few staff members now that are not vaccinated, but if they're not, then they're tested on a weekly basis. They've got to wear a mask even in the communities where they're not required to, and we're still pushing that peer pressure a bit, because if we have everyone vaccinated, it's a much easier day than if we have these sort of anomalies. So we're pushing pretty hard and encouraging. We continue, the few residents we have that aren't, and the families, we continue to show them where we'll take them and get them vaccinated. And we're working that angle a bit. So, but I don't think we'll ever get to 100%, but we're pretty close now. And so
Sounds like you guys are pretty close. And it also seems like the safe party is in senior living communities right now.
yeah.
It's amazing, the residents. So within the communication stream that Brookdale's been creating on awareness and the safety of the vaccines, they interviewed residents, and some of the comments were really eye-opening, with a lot of them going through the introduction of the polio vaccine. And why is this any different?
Oh, sure.
And
Sure.
what was the other one?
Seatbelts come to mind.
Pardon me?
Seatbelts come to mind, you know, things
Right?
that help keep you safe.
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, they were advocating with that participation. And so it's been, the residents have been all on board by and large.
Great.
Yeah.
So if you're coming inside a community, if you're an outsider and you're going into the community, and you have typically been part of the community, but you're not a resident and you're not an operator, what's it like, Alicia? What have you gone through? How's it been different? What did you have to do?
Well, our team has made commitment to the clients and the communities that we will continue to wear masks. I think most of us in-house are vaccinated fully, but we definitely think it's important to just show the community and the residents as we visit that we're going to follow, you know, they don't know us, and we do have name tags on, but I just think there's a level of comfort there. We are wearing masks for the residents, the staff, and the executives there. As far as any vendors or during installations, we request our installers to do the same, to wear masks. And but in the beginning, it was definitely the full gear. It was the sheets and the clothes you had to wear, in the protective PPE gear. So that was interesting.
Do you have any photos of you guys in PPE?
Absolutely. Yes.
Can you share any of them?
I should have shared some of those earlier with you guys.
Well, let's look at what installs look like today, given the new protocols in place. You want to take us through some of them?
Yeah, well, it's basically a little bit different in we fully unload, or the installers unload the trucks, the semis, all of the pieces moving in. They're unboxed outside.
Mhm.
Hopefully it's not raining, but if it is, we make adjustments. But we unbox everything outside and then just hand walk it in. So the installation crews that we work with and have worked with over the last 15 years, they're great and they're very accommodating in doing that. So,
So
so
does
we're
this
bringing
add,
us-
Alicia, does this add to your time period of doing an install? If you're going to have to unload it outside and walk each piece in individually?
Right, it does. And saying that too, which we'll probably touch on in a few minutes, but the other additional time that's been added is instead of doing one full install like we typically would do, it's broken into a few different installs. And that's basically due to lead times and products and all of that, the availabilities. But it does take a little more time. We also are very cautious with the installation crew. There's only maybe 3 or 4, depending on the size of the project,
Mhm.
will enter the building. The rest of the crew stays outside and they unbox and unload the trucks, breaks all the boxes down and assembles the furniture, while there's a handful of guys that come in and out moving the new furniture in.
Mhm. Well, let's stay on design for a second. Is there a mad rush for owners and operators to now renovate their communities, given that, the height of the crisis is behind us? And if there is, what's the focus of the new renovation? Is it inside? Is it something different?
We're definitely having a big push, and we did during COVID just to stay ahead of the game. But we're definitely seeing our clients and operators, owners, wanting to make sure that everyone feels comfortable,
Mhm.
these clean, great looking environments, but two, just to give the residents who were in those spaces without leaving for a year, a year plus, something new and something fun and inspiring to their clean new environment that they get to experience now. But we are, of course, seeing, as we did during the pandemic, a lot of outdoor spaces being either added, renovated, existing spaces being added onto, a lot of activities being done outdoors. And there's definitely a push for just for even entertainment. As you see here, we
Mhm.
were at one install, and as soon as we got our new furniture in place, we saw the activities director taking out the new furniture and setting it outside. And we're like, wait, what's happening? And we quickly saw entertainers come up, and they were all dressed, and you see them in the background, but they were having a show. And they slowly, the residents one by one started going out, and that's what was going on. Is they had some singers come, and an activity that they were holding outside. So it was so great to see, and the residents absolutely loved it. So it's nice to see everyone enjoying the outdoors and the elements.
So what's going to change when the weather gets cooler? They're out there now, it's summertime. Oops. But, what happens when it gets cooler? Are communities starting to think about continuing outdoor activities, Joe?
Yeah, I think you're going to see outdoor activities continuing. I think you're going to find lots of creative spaces. We have a We have a new concept called Elevate Senior Living, which is in design phases right now. So we're able to like make some adjustments and changes. And we've created some interesting outdoor spaces as far as some unique courtyards, second store, covered patios that have heating elements to them. So in Illinois and Northeast and those markets where it's cold, you can still be outside and still enjoy the warmth and those things, and some other sort of covered walkways to create a lot more outdoor space. Obviously, it's a super do in the Southeast and Texas and
Sure.
in the Southwest, but trying to be creative on how to make that happen within other environments and other climates. And I think with all that's happened, you're also going to find unique spaces that have differing seating arrangements that allow people to sit together or separate. So in the event, I think you're going to see a change in the way that we access buildings. From a vendor perspective, a lot of things are going to shift from indoor acceptance to outdoor acceptance. And I know in this model, the Elevate model we're talking about, we've created that now so that even like our electricians and our HVAC folks never have to walk into the building. They can access all of their mechanicals from the outside, which was something we were trying to do from an efficiency standpoint. And then COVID hit and we became super smart, obviously, because look, we did it because COVID came. But those things just start to make more sense. And as Greg mentioned with the vendors, we don't let them in. So we're going to have to figure out a way to, to do something from an outsource perspective. And I'm really excited to see what's going to come out from a creativity standpoint. I think there's a lot of creative folks, that are our colleagues that'll come up with some really unique spaces. And I'm kind of excited to see some of those too.
Well, also, we're talking about keeping it warm, but those folks in the Southwest and Southeast, they need to keep it cool because it's hotter than hot in the West right now. Laura, how are you dealing with renewed interest in outdoors? And can you make this a year-round option for residents? So can you make it colder and warmer and use the outdoors?
I think depending on the space, everybody's kind of hit on the same thing, expanding concrete, having it be flexible, taking advantage of misters in the Southwest. Right. So yeah, lots of renewed interest in outdoor spaces, making sure that the furniture is comfortable so that you can sit longer, making sure there's plenty of shade, especially in the warmer climates. So yeah, that's all. Everybody, we had a lot of requests this spring for new outdoor furniture. So yeah.
I think the biggest challenge might be for all of you who have properties in the urban markets, because obviously real estate isn't an option. You can't just go expanding to the great outdoors. And so how are you going to address that in the urban markets? I think that's going to be really interesting to see as everything moves along.
Yeah. Little sidewalk cafes.
Yeah, I think
Exactly.
there's a lot of repurposing of space that perhaps may have been wasted space or not used in that urban market. That's going to be creating something like that. And I think we're all learning that, by default, by having been inside a lot and seeing some of the spaces that you use or don't use.
Right. We're going to go back to some restrictions and protocols and whatnot. And Laura, I want to know, are there any restrictions for residents who travel outside the city or state where they reside? And if there are restrictions coming back in, what are they?
So we've just been following the CDC guidelines and then the local and state guidelines for that particular community. We're just doing whatever the guidances are requiring.
Okay. What about some of these little things that we all became too familiar with, like the little discs on the floor that say stand 6 feet apart, and some of the other trappings that were absolutely declarations of being in the middle of COVID? Are they out the window? Are you guys pulling them up? What's happening with that stuff?
I say we pull them up. Let's
Agree.
not mess around with that stuff any longer. I hate it. I'm so done with it. If you're vaccinated and your community is safe, get rid of the stuff. Let's not leave any residue from COVID in our building and just move forward in a positive way. I did want to mention something about outdoor. one of the things that Kemper House does well is we actually have 3 different neighborhoods. Each neighborhood has a courtyard, private courtyard. Now we're specialized dementia care, and so the courtyards are secured, and our residents have 24/7 access to those if the weather is nice. And we actually theme those. So one of our neighborhoods has chickens. So the residents can go out and feed the chickens or get the eggs, collect the eggs. We also do a butterfly theme in one and then a gardening theme in another. And then we also have patios throughout the building itself on more of the outside of the building that our caregivers would have to be with the residents themselves from a safety perspective. But we also have walking paths around the building. And we're in the Midwest, and so we have all different types of weather here. And I'm a big advocate of no matter what's happening with the weather is, we still like to get our residents out there as long as we can do it safely. So if it's in the dead of the winter, I would prefer to actually dress our residents warm and get them out into the cool air. Now we want it to still be safe and all that kind of stuff, but I think there's value in not being locked up in a building, getting out, getting that fresh air on your skin. And so no matter what's going on now, obviously there's times when you just can't do it if we're getting dumped with a foot of snow, but we keep things safe, but we're always constantly trying to get our residents out of the building because it's so good for their cognition to be out and in the sun, in the weather, no matter what's really going on. So I just wanted to circle back on that because I think it's important for communities to pay attention to that.
Right, right. Well, I think it sounds to me like most of them are trying to do exactly that. But you guys have a lot of options at your disposal, and that makes it very special. Well, what's happening in your communities, Joe? Are you pulling all that stuff up and getting rid of it? And so is there a new day, a new kind of protocol that is less in your face that people are aware of?
We've tried to get everything that we can back to normal. The 6 feet apart is gone, except for the T-shirts that people bought in the airports when they're traveling. But we've tried to make everything as normal as possible. We still do the temperature check in the little survey. We've moved that to outside, and so it's even less intrusive. So they're not standing in the the middle of the living room trying to get all that done. And we're really trying to make that process much easier. And really, with the folks that are coming in now, almost all of them we already know and are, they know the process, so they'll do their thing and walk in and just hand the sheet and they can go, amongst their way. So we're getting good at that. We'd love to get rid of that because realistically, everyone checks no on everything and signs it and hands it to you. So short of the temperature check, but with all the folks being vaccinated, the temperature check, just kind of another step that I'm not sure we need to continue, but we have been because of the requirements.
Yeah.
But we're really moving away from all of the distancing, and as I mentioned earlier, we're looking at bringing in volunteers and our live music has started again, and and the parties and things that we had before that the residents so enjoy. And one of our communities, the residents, in light of lacking for something to do, have opened up a bistro where they run and manage it and sell swag and what have you. And they can't wait for the families and the folks from the outside to come in so they can make some cash. So it's been kind of interesting to see how
That's hilarious.
they're nudging us in that direction now, which I love that.
I love it. The senior entrepreneurs.
Exactly.
It's great. It's great. We have a lot of folks who are with us today watching this webinar who are also in communities. And if participating would like to share in the chat, we'd love to hear what you guys have been doing so that we can share that with the rest of the people on the webinar today. So do feel free to either ask questions or share some of your own stories about activities around and beyond COVID. So Laura, I have a big question that I think a lot of people are asking. The beginning of this whole thing 15 months ago, it was pretty scary and everybody thought, oh my God, be as in a senior living place. But really what they meant was they didn't want to be in a nursing home because that's where the bad stories were coming. Right. Today, it's a new day. Senior living is where people want to be. That's the safest place to be. That's where all the people who are vaccinated are, right? So tell me about the state of the state. Like, what's happening in senior living now? Are move-ins on the up? You know, are there waiting?
Move-ins are
happening?
crazy on the up. We had our best month ever in May for move-ins.
Yay.
So it's really exciting. We're hoping that we can break it again in June. You know, keeping in mind that we lost a lot over the last 15 months.
Mhm.
So between demand and openings, the national average right now is in the high 70s for occupancy. But yeah, it's really exciting and encouraging to see people comfortable putting their loved one in a senior living environment.
Do you think, Greg, there's a reason behind this
I think you're reading-
excitement about
you're
going
reading
into
the
senior
witness, aren't you?
living?
Yeah, I constantly warn our marketers that there is a pent up demand. There was a pent up demand. And so as soon as families started feeling, and really the turning point was when they saw that they could actually get in the communities and visit their loved ones. I mean, it was amazing to me as we were going through COVID and the pandemic that somebody would actually show up to our building, drop off their loved one, never even see the interior of our building, and say, please take care of them. Can you imagine?
Whoa.
And,
No, I can't.
and yeah, and it
Yeah.
happened all the time.
Shocking.
And
Yeah.
but we didn't know what we didn't know. As
Mhm.
soon as they realized that, oh, now we can actually go drop off, walk my loved one in, be in their apartment, hang out with them. All of a sudden, you know, we're getting 9 to 10 move-ins at each community a month. And so there were a lot of people that were holding off. And one thing I did notice, the health of a lot of the residents had deteriorated. So they were coming to us a little bit deeper in the disease than we would normally get them, because they could have been holding off anywhere from, 15 months to, a couple of weeks or whatever, but they definitely were holding off before actually deciding to pull that trigger. It's just such a difficult decision to make anyways, let alone not being intimate with the community and understanding what it's like, what their apartments like. They had never even seen the interiors of their apartments, yet they were living with us.
Yeah.
And so that.
Well, I think a lot of it was a fear factor, right? They thought,
Yes,
oh, okay, well, my mother, my sister, whatever, needs your help. We're no longer able to fill that need at home. But you probably don't want us in there because we've been overexposed. I think that there was probably a general fear. I'm just supposing that, but.
And there was the fear of, if you had COVID in your building, that's a problem.
Right.
And how you mitigate risk, or as a family member, why would I want to put my mom or dad or loved one into that environment and take that bigger risk? And so, we're thankfully moving past that. And so I would say, let's not get caught up on it being our best months right now, because there was such a pent up demand. But 6 months from now, we can reinvestigate that.
Well, we'll be asking you that same question.
Yeah, exactly.
Joe, how about for you guys? What have you seen?
Yeah, we had, in the beginning, we had 30 days of nothing. And then we kind of stayed relatively steady and busy, not at the level that you would expect, but way better than we expected throughout COVID. We had some creative things going on, and we were reaching out to local restaurants and ordering out for them and try to keep that relationship going, anything you could. And then, May hit, and it really was kind of a move in a day, 2 to 3 tours a day. And that's continued through May and through June. And, everybody's super excited. And as Greg said, we're excited and we're ramping back up, but we got to be smart about it and not, think that it's all happened. And we had a unique situation because during the pandemic is when we introduced, kind of in a big way, the Elevate Senior Living concept. So we're trying a new concept in the middle of the pandemic. And believe it or not, it has gone very, very well because of the uniqueness of it and the fact that we haven't, we're breaking ground and moving dirt, but people paused and weren't having conversations. And then the same thing now, everyone wants to talk
Mhm.
about it, and it's been a great thing. So we kind of looked at it from both sides: is we're open and we're running it, and now we're kind of speculating on doing a new thing, and is that going to just flop, or is it going to thrive? And we probably had 30, 45 days of wondering what the heck have we done, and now that's ramped right back up, and it's kind of close to business as usual on that side of the coin as well. So that's great to see from us personally, but also from an industry perspective, is that
Mhm.
business is happening again.
Yep.
And I think that will continue to grow. That helps us all, at the end of the day.
Absolutely. And all of these new platforms and concepts, you weren't the only one launching a brand new concept during the pandemic in the senior living space. And I think that really says a lot for the senior living space in general, whether you're looking at independent living or assisted living or memory care. There are options and there are new platforms and new experiences. And so Elevate launching during that time might have sounded crazy then, but in a way gave you the opportunity to have more brand awareness and kind of work out some kinks. And, that's a great thing. And it really speaks volumes for the industry. So that's exciting. Alicia, you're probably seeing the result of this wanting, this held back, pent up energy of moving into properties by being into the properties while you're doing installs. And tell me, is that something that is accelerated now that things are open and communities are letting you in more frequently? What's happening on the design side of it?
Yes, it's definitely a big push and a big rush. And the other flip side of that is the supply is not there. We have just used up the supply that we have. And now, as you know, nationwide, the supply shortage, the worker shortage, the everything. We're having, I mentioned to someone yesterday that even yarn, that custom patterns, carpets that we are having made, the yarn for those carpets is typically the lead time on that for the manufacturer is about a week.
Mhm.
It's now running into 6 and 8 weeks, and it's because there's a shortage. And that shortage is one big push or reason for that is because it's the same chemicals that's used in PPP or PPE apparel and
Sure.
of that and supplies and takeout containers. And I think Laura had mentioned the adhesive buckets, there and paint buckets. There's a shortage of those. That's just really holding us up. So lead times where it was typical 5 to 6 weeks, 4 to 6 weeks, then it became 8 to 10 weeks and
Right.
9 to 12, 9 to 16, and some manufacturers were saying 24 weeks.
Good
So
Lord.
and we've got to be creative. We've got to figure out, and really
Well, how to manage that supply chain issue is certainly not only in senior living, right? It's not
Right.
only design in senior living. This is across the board. We're feeling it in every single segment. There has never been a phrase more frequently used than supply chain management. I don't think in my lifetime I've heard it used as much as I have in the last 30 days. It's a hot topic and it's something affecting all of us, but specifically for senior living and senior living design, we will be addressing that in our next webinar because this is an industry topic and this is something that is affecting every one of the folks we deal with, we know, and we want to be able to shed as much light on it as possible. So when we do present next month's webinar, it is going to be on the supply chain and how to manage it. And we'll have some experts in. As you know, we like to bring our experts in for webinars. So we will be doing that next month. So stay tuned on that one. But we'll get past this. we will get past this and things will start to regulate, just like we couldn't get into a senior living community and there were 30 days of nobody coming in, right? And then all of a sudden there were showings and people moving in. We will get past the supply chain piece as well. And it will be better. But during that time, we'll have the opportunity to also explore other opportunities for the community and for visitors to the community, how we continue to protect our residents, how we continue to protect the folks who come to visit. And if, you know, I think there've been a lot of key learnings and everybody has made adaptations as we've gone along and we've learned more, and we'll be better prepared for whatever comes along next, I think.
Mhm.
We should hope, but it is certainly a robust segment. And, you know, for 5 minutes, people wondered, is it going to survive? Well, it's more than surviving. It's booming again. And I think that's a really positive takeaway for all of our friends and colleagues who are in the industry.
Absolutely.
I agree.
Anybody like to add anything about where we are today on opening or reopening, I should say, before we close out today? We've had a very quiet audience. We have not had questions like we usually do. Maybe we have either had them so consumed in what we had to say, or we need to have more pictures next time. Well, thank you all for joining us and contributing. We appreciate you being here with us, and we look forward to seeing you again. Our next webinar is going to be on supply chain management, the issues that are facing senior living communities and the designers and who are trying to improve those communities. And that will be on July 29th. So mark your calendars, and we look forward to seeing you again in the near future. Once again, if you'd like to see this or any other webinar that we have previously presented, you can always go to our website, agelesslivingcollaborative.org, to view the webinars, as well as look at our gallery or look at any number of other informational items that we have on the website. And I can't let you guys go without reminding you we have a scholarship fund for senior living designer who wants to come into our industry, a student. So please feel free to contribute to that scholarship fund through nedwh.org, Ageless Living Collaborative. Thank you all. We'll see you
Thank you.
soon.
Take care. God bless.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.